What's up, my Financial Fit fam? Adam here, and welcome back as always. On this channel, we traditionally talk about long-term investing strategies. And today, well, we're gonna do just that. One of the most powerful long-term investing vehicles is called an individual retirement account, or as most humanoids would call it, an IRA. There are quite a few varieties of IRAs, but in today's video, we're gonna look at the benefits and the differences between traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. So let's get going. If you enjoy investing in the traditional stock market, or you like cryptocurrencies, or maybe you just want to learn more about investing in general, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. When it comes to life, there's really three things that you can always count on. And to get this pertinent insight, I'm gonna kick it over to my man, Chad Johnson.
Three things in life that's certain: death, taxes, and 85 will always be open.
While taxes are inevitable, an IRA allows you to save for retirement with either tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth, depending on the IRA you choose. You might be saying to yourself, I already have a 401k and my company matches some of the contributions that I make. So why would I need an IRA on top of that? It is possible that your 401k will not accumulate enough savings for you to retire comfortably. Many financial experts believe that you may need up to 85% of your pre-retirement income in order to retire comfortably. So think about an IRA as a supplement to what you've already started accumulating towards your retirement. If your company has a 401k, that's great. You might also want to add an IRA. Or if you don't have any 401k at all, you might want to start with an IRA in order to get ready for the latter years. Traditional IRAs have been around since 1974, while Roth IRAs are somewhat newer, established in 1997. Again, for the purpose of today's video, we're going to talk about the big two, which are traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. Traditional and Roth IRAs do have similarities, and that's mostly in the tax-free growth that you actually get by using the investment vehicles. There are several differences as well, including tax deductions, eligibility standard, and also accessibility to those funds. Another similarity, and what most people are concerned about, is the maximum contribution. It's the same for both a traditional and Roth IRA. If you're under the age of 50, you can contribute up to $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, you can contribute an additional $1,000, making it $7,000 per year. Now, these numbers do change from time to time. It's always important to look at the most updated regulation. Now, when you make a contribution to your traditional IRA, they are tax deductible from both your state and federal tax return for the year of which you made that contribution. Because contributions to a traditional IRA give you additional tax deductions, it lowers your adjusted gross income. So here's an example. Let's say last year you made $80,000. You also contributed $5,000 to your traditional IRA. Well, now your gross income is $80,000. You subtract out that $5,000 to give you an adjusted gross income of $75,000. So now your state and federal tax returns are based off of that adjusted gross income, $75,000 instead of $80,000. Because your income is lower, you might now qualify for other tax incentives, like a child tax credit, or maybe even being able to write off some of the interest against your student loans. When you make withdrawals from your traditional IRA, and again, this is a retirement account, so we're not looking to your latter years, basically once you're over the age of 59 and a half, you would then be taxed at your current income rate when you make those withdrawals. So to summarize, with the traditional IRA, you're saying, I don't want to pay taxes right now. I'd rather pay them when I actually make withdrawals during my retirement years. With the Roth IRA, you're saying the exact opposite. You're saying, I'm comfortable paying taxes now, but when I want to use that money later on, y'all better not touch that. That's mine. So it becomes tax-free when you want to use it in retirement. Now, because you decided to pay the taxes up front, you can't use your contributions to a Roth IRA against your gross income. So it won't change your gross income from the $80,000 to the $75,000 like we talked in that example earlier. When it comes to eligibility requirements, all are welcome with traditional IRAs. When it comes to being eligible for a Roth IRA, the max amount someone can earn in order to be eligible, a single individual in 2021, is $140,000. You will also get phased out between $125,000 and $140,000 as far as your maximum contribution. For a married couple, that maximum threshold is $208,000, and you start to get phased out at $198,000 per year. Now, when it comes to withdrawals in a traditional IRA, you have to start taking withdrawals at the age of 72. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, even if you don't need the money, you have to take out a minimum. It's also called an RMD. These minimum withdrawals are different from person to person because it's based on your age and the overall size of that account. Now, with Roth IRAs, there is no required minimum distribution, so you never really need to make withdrawals. As a matter of fact, if you don't need the money and you never touch it and you leave it to a beneficiary, they can make withdrawals from that account tax-free as well. When it comes to accessibility to these funds, especially if you need this money a little bit earlier than retirement, there are certain restrictions and certain expectations. This is where it gets a little tricky. If you take a withdrawal from your traditional IRA before the age of 59 and a half, your contributions and your earnings, this includes things like interest, dividends, and your capital gains, are all taxed as ordinary income. You also get slapped with a 10% penalty, and you can also be subject to state penalties as well. You can get around paying the penalty under certain circumstances. You can use up to $10,000 as a first-time home buyer, death, disability, medical costs, some educational costs are covered, and there's several other exceptions. If you're interested in reading more about these exceptions, I'm going to drop a link in the description box of this video. With the Roth IRA, the length of time of which the account is open will dictate what you have to pay in taxes and what you'd pay in penalty. If you're under the age of 59 and a half and you've had the account open for less than 5 years, the earnings and just the earnings would be subject to taxes and penalties. Because remember, you've already paid the taxes up front. Now we compare that to the traditional IRA. Remember, your contribution and your earnings are subject to both taxes and penalty. Regardless, you have to pay tax on the earnings. However, you can avoid paying penalty if you need up to $10,000 as a first-time home buyer, if you have excessive medical expenses, you need certain funds for educational purposes, death, disability, and a couple other reasons. If you're under 59 and a half, but you've had your account open for 5 years or more, you can actually avoid taxes and penalty if you fell under one of those previous criteria. Both a traditional and a Roth IRA are non-discriminatory when it comes to age. You can start an IRA at the age of 20, you could start it at the age of 55, you could start it at 95. While retirement might seem far away for many, it'll sneak up on you quicker than you think. Both a traditional and a Roth IRA are a great way to supplement any retirement account that you may already have. If you don't have a retirement account at all, you might want to start with one of these IRA options to get you going in the right direction. And many wise men and women once said, it's not about how much money you make, rather how much you keep. IRA allows you to pay those taxes up front or defer them to later on in life, whenever you think you'd be in the best tax situation. This allows you to keep more money in your pocket and allow you to retire in a more comfortable fashion. When it comes down to it, there's only 3 things you can always count on: death, taxes, and that Ocho Cinco will always be open. As always, save, invest, and grow. Ciao, ciao.